Yeah, it's me with that bullshit. You ain't really wild, you a tourist. I be blacking out with the purist. I made 100,000, I freaked it. I made 500,000, I freaked it.
Hey guys, it's your girl Jo here, back at you with another video. For those guys who are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Jo, and this is a channel where we do open discussions through books and film, and sometimes I do lifestyle, writing, and traveling related videos. But for today, I wanted to film my reaction on Black Panther. This was my #1 most anticipated film of this year, and I wanted to wait until I go to Baltimore next Wednesday to see it with my brother, but I just couldn't wait. I saw so many spoilers, and I'm like, I have to watch this film. I can't wait any longer. And so that's exactly what I did. Now, I will say that this is going to be filled with spoilers, so if you have not seen the film, do not watch this video. If you don't care about spoilers or you have seen the film, definitely continue to watch. From this point on, you have been warned. So we know that Black Panther is told from the eyes of T'Challa and after the events of Civil War. So he's coming home from Wakanda after the death of his father to reclaim his place on the throne. And the movie basically just focused on all the ramifications that come with that. The aesthetic of this film is absolutely incredible. As you can see, it is the inspiration for my outfit today and my look. From the costumes to the buildings and the use of oranges and browns and brass, and that's kind of inculcated in the background of Wakanda. Definitely pays homage to a lot of African traditions, a lot of African architecture, and aesthetics of different tribes. It's just so beautifully crafted. From that very first scene when we first see Wakanda, when they pass through the invisible barrier, is absolutely incredible. Besides the aesthetic of Wakanda, I really love the political fabric of Wakanda, like the way that Wakanda is ran, which a lot of people think that that's might be a minor detail, but that's actually a very integral part of world building. Speaking as a writer, those little details actually make your world feel realistic and quite authentic. And I love that they did that careful way of constructing a government that isn't necessarily monarchy, but a kind of form of democracy in a way, because you have the different tribes, they have their elected representative leaders that are on the panel of the king. They actually talk about different legislation that's going to pass over Wakanda, what they making different decisions, and then from there they go on a majority, and then the king makes the final ruling. But from that point, it is quite interesting the way that they constructed the system, and then you can see why it's so prosperous, on top of the fact that they have very powerful resource and the way that they use that resource, the way that they conserve it. Another very interesting detail, and it's very important in the part of the world building. So I really appreciated all the careful steps that they did in creating this whole new world within the Marvel universe. Another part of the film that I really loved was the family dynamic. This part is so incredibly important to me. Why? Because growing up, seeing Black films, I've always seen the nuclear family, the destructive family. Usually the relationship between the child and the parents are horrible. They're being influenced by the outside world and they bring it into their home. And it's kind of the same narrative that gets so exhausted in Black films. And I think for the longest time, that's why I hated watching them. And I love that this film didn't fall in that trap. I loved the relationship between T'Challa and his father. I love the relationship between T'Challa and his sister. They don't take each other seriously, but they show a lot of love and support for one another. T'Challa has a lot of expectations for her. She has a lot of expectations for him. And it's a very growing relationship of siblings. And they respect each other and they take interest in each other. And I love that so much, because that's so hard to see a very healthy sibling relationship. Usually in Black films, you see that the father isn't there, or the father is abusive, or that's usually the case in most Black films. But I love that this film centered on a loving relationship between a father and the son. Even on Killmonger's part, you see that there is a loving father and son relationship as well. So that is a very important theme, I think, that was running throughout this film, and it was crafted so incredibly well. And I just love that unifying front and love the family unit, and how that definitely, I think, played a major part in the success of the running of Wakanda, because it was such a tight-knit family. This is probably one of the most feminist films that I've ever seen, and I don't even think it was even trying to be feminist. It was so incredibly cool to see women that were sitting on the deciding panel with the king, to see Nakia giving the king pointers, to see a general, Oyoki, I think that's her name, who makes decisions, and the army is full of women. It was just so great to see powerful Black women making decisions, not being afraid to share their opinions, not being silenced by the men. So there's this neutral respect on genders as well. It's not like the women were played up and the men were played down, or vice versa. There was this sense of everyone is a powerful character, and you don't see that in films a lot. Whether it's a Black film or non-Black film, it doesn't matter. It was just so refreshing to see. Now, I will say this, I do know that there were certain reviews that I've seen where they criticized this because they believe that T'Challa was not that powerful of a hero. You see in other hero films, the other characters are downplayed a lot. And what I think Coogler did that was extremely well is that he did not want that. He wanted every character to have a good constructed story, and you felt that even if they had a small amount of camera time, you felt their presence on the screen, and that was done on purpose. And I think that it was so well done and crafted so well, and I hope that it does change the way Marvel films their future movies, because this, I think, was definitely breaking ground on that aspect. All of that same stem, I really love the relationship between T'Challa and Nakia. I think, of course, you would have Chadwick Boseman, who is absolutely beautiful, and Lupita Nyong'o, who another very beautiful woman. They really made sure that they casted all the most beautiful Black people they could find for these characters, because it was just everyone in this film was beautiful, from Daniel Lua to Chadwick to Michael B. Jordan to Lupita to the woman who played Shuri. I thought she was incredibly beautiful in this film. Just everybody was beautiful in this film. But specifically the relationship between Nakia and, I think, T'Challa goes even beyond their aesthetic, but also the fact that they are a power couple, because they build each other up. They show the epitome of what a healthy relationship between two Black people is. I see that with my parents. It kind of reminded me even of a Barack Obama, Michelle Obama also, because Nakia has her own vision, has her own agency in terms of helping those in need, wanting Wakanda to give aid to those who are suffering on the African continent. And she has her calling, but at the same time, she understands that T'Challa has his duty to his country, and she doesn't want him to compromise that for her. And that's something that was so strong about her character. What I love about T'Challa's point is that he doesn't feel intimidated by Nakia's character. She's a strong character, she's open-minded, she is stubborn, and she sticks in her ways, but she also values her own integrity. Ethics is a huge part of who she is, and those are attributes that doesn't turn him off from her, but rather he not only loves her, but he also looks up to her, I don't want to say that, but he looks at her with a sense of trust. You guys have no idea how great it is to finally see a Black couple, besides South Side of You, which showed the young Obamas. This film did it so perfectly, and I loved it, and it was not what I was expecting from a hero film. Now from this, I kind of want to go into the villain of the film, Killmonger. Besides being sexy and beautiful as Michael B. Jordan is, he just was amazing as Killmonger. He added so much complexity to the definition of the villain, because for the first time ever, it's not just that we're understanding the villain, but we actually can get behind the villain because of what he wants. Especially if you're someone of color, you understand where he's coming from. You understand his anger and why he wants to take over Wakanda and why he does, and what his vision is for Wakanda. There was a point when he first fought T'Challa, and he was saying, there were certain things that he was saying that made a lot of sense to me, and I even found myself rooting on his side, because he was completely right. Even though T'Challa, it wasn't T'Challa's fault, it was his father and the people, and of course his ancestors before him, that made this decision for Wakanda to sit out when Blacks were being enslaved and going through discrimination and all this stuff and not doing a thing about it. I understand where he was coming from, and I felt that anger for myself. And I think that was so cool for Marvel to do, to make a villain that we can stand behind, and made you look at Wakanda a different way when you learn the truth, especially when it comes out T'Challa's father killed his brother. Let me know down below if you guys saw that. I didn't see that plot twist. It added to the complexity of Killmonger's character even more. One of my favorite booktubers, Jordan Harvey, actually touched base on this. I will leave a link up to her review so you can check it out if you're interested. But she was talking about how Black Panther is kind of a coming of age story for T'Challa. In a lot of ways it is. And I think the realization of what his father did was definitely a turning point for T'Challa, because it cut down that final perfected look at his father. It just tore that picture down to know that he killed his own brother. And that, I think, was the first real test of understanding who T'Challa was as a hero. And the fact that he came back, fought Killmonger, won, and not only he won, but he completely changed the political fabric of Wakanda, made him one of the most powerful heroes we have seen in the Marvel Universe. I have not seen a film in the Marvel Universe, at least recently, that made such a deep change and huge impact of a change as T'Challa did. It did break my heart, the scene when Killmonger was killed, because I actually really liked Killmonger as a villain. I just wish that he had there was a point where maybe he realized the error of his ways, but I kind of like that they didn't play into that happy ending thing, because how far gone Killmonger was and where his rage took him, I think there was no coming back from that. So it was very realistic, and I did appreciate that. Two of the biggest, most powerful themes of this movie was revenge on your enemies and whether you should be a bystander or actually help. Wakanda is known to not engage in war, to kind of keep to itself, to worry about its immediate, how it's supposed to run and how it's supposed to keep going. But at the same time, Blacks were suffering, Wakanda was prospering and had this access to this resource that could have benefited a lot of people to fight back against these oppressions. And they kept it to themselves, which is why Killmonger was such an important character. And I think that's why so many people love him as a villain, because he had every reason to feel that way, because to a certain extent, we feel that way ourselves. The other question that it also answers is whether we should sit back or help. Wakanda became a very successful civilization, but at the same time, it was so successful because it was small, because it was regulated, and its resources were concentrated in one area, and it was completely independent from the rest of the world. At the end credit scene, when T'Challa goes to talk at the UN, he gives this really resonating speech about international solidarity and why we should help each other, and war is never the answer, and all this stuff. And it was really well crafted and really nice. But then one of the representatives was like, what can a country of farmers give to the rest of the world? And even though I found that very, very funny, because that is definitely a Western attitude towards third world countries, because they're underdeveloped, people tend to not think of them as actually rich civilizations that have just been depleted of their raw materials because of the Western world. But again, I'm not going to go deeper into that. If you want to watch I Am From a Shithole Country video, it's definitely up there. You can check it out where I go deeper into that. Even though I found that really, really funny, it also kind of showed not only the global ignorance to what Wakanda is, but also Wakanda's ignorance to everywhere else. I don't think that Wakanda, at least that's the impression I got from this film, understands the amount of suffering and oppression that Blacks across the globe have suffered. So now that Wakanda is coming out as this prosperous nation and kind of turning the heads of a lot of Western powers, and I know now is probably going to be under a lot of, not only a lot of scrutiny, but a lot of people wanting to get something out of Wakanda because of how resourceful it is. But also it might create some interesting tensions within the Black global community and Wakanda because of the very fact that they stood by when all this was happening and not doing anything. I hope that it's further explored in future films. Let me know down below if you guys agree with that. Even though it would be kind of risky, making this a film like this was risky anyway, so it would be interesting for them to kind of go deeper into that question and to see what happens to Wakanda from this point, because it's going to change. It's never going to be the same. It can never go back to the way it was when we saw it at the very beginning of the film. So, and how that's going to impact T'Challa's relationship to Nakia, and to everyone else in this country. Claw obviously was an unhinged villain, but also there was something nuanced about his character, because he understood how resourceful Wakanda was. He understood how the benefit of the vibranium that Wakanda had and how he can profit off of it himself. But then in his final fight with Killmonger, and as he was dying, he says, they're all savages. So there's this superiority complex with Claw's character. Not only is he profiting off of Wakanda's resources, and he's dependent on Wakanda's resources for profit, he still has a sense of superiority over the Wakandan people. Compared to Everett's character, who's completely ignorant of what Wakanda is, believes just like the entire world that it's a third world country, you know, it doesn't really have much to offer, whatever, to actually learning the truth about Wakanda, engaging in Wakanda's conflict with trying to reinstate its stability, and then on top of that being a changed person, being a woke person, and becoming an ally with Wakanda. It kind of explored two different depictions of types of white people, those that don't understand and don't want to understand Black culture, compared to those who don't understand, want to understand, change because they understand, but also engage actively with that culture. So it shows two different kind of characters that depict those kind of people. And I think that that was an interesting part to add to the film, because it wasn't just all Black film and it's us against the world, and it wasn't that kind of film, which is what I expected. It was a film that was about coming to terms that we live in a world that is very diverse and full of different people that have different things to offer, but also finding a way to put our differences aside, put our histories aside, and working together. And I think that was a very cool note, especially with Infinity Wars coming up in the summer. I cannot wait to see T'Challa again. Cannot wait to see Chadwick in that beautiful body-hugging suit. I don't have a lot of negative things to say about this film. The action sequences, yes, a lot of people have been saying that the action sequences, the CGI and all that are amateur looking at points. But to me, I'm not a big action person. Even though I love superheroes, I'm not big on the action. And so the action sequences didn't make any real difference to me on the quality of the film. And so let me know down below what you guys thought about the film. I'm very curious to know, or let me know what you thought about anything that I said, if you agree, if you disagree, and what you noticed maybe that I didn't say. I'm definitely going to go and watch it again. I cannot wait, and I cannot wait for Black Panther 2. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.